nothing higher than the sky. Dreams so big, she's learning to fly. Family by her side, a twinkle in her eye. Building her empire, waving down goodbye. Pretty smart, and she's on a roll. Heart on fire, got an unshakable goal. Dreams of family, she's got the mix just right. Rising like the sun, burning so bright.
Hello and welcome back to the Pretty Smart Business Podcast, where we believe women can be pretty and smart all at the same time. We're taking a stand for the and in life. I am your host, Sheena White, and today we have a really special guest. Her name is Zenovia Wright, and I have to say I really love the name of her business. It's called the PrettyLife Coaching. Pretty Smart Business, PrettyLife Coaching. It just works. It works. She is a women's transitional coach, helping women rebuild their lives after trauma, loss, and major life changes. Haven't we all had some of that? Through PrettyLife Coaching, she helps those navigating domestic violence recovery, chronic illness, identity shift transitions, and she helps them to reclaim their voice and create lives rooted in peace, purpose, and power. Her own journey from healing after a toxic relationship to thriving with MS fuels compassionate, empowering support she offers every day. Welcome to the show, Zenovia. So we give you a clap.
Thank you so much for having me, Sheena. It is a pleasure to be here, and thank you for that amazing introduction.
Yes. Okay. After a toxic relationship and dealing with MS, that's like heavy. That's a lot. And I feel like a lot of women, I guess people in general, but we're really talking to women here, a lot of people would allow that to keep them small, but you don't. So congrats on that, first of all. And then secondly, let's talk about that. What made you want to break past that and say, no, I'm not going to let this define me?
Absolutely. So to give you some context before we get into the MS and that transition point, I've always had a goal to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to work for myself, but the business was going to be focused on DIY projects, makeup, and some women's empowerment. But it was a very different idea that I had before being diagnosed with MS and going through that very toxic relationship. And so that was a breaking point for me. I felt like I lost part of my identity. I've always seen myself as very independent, able to multitask, able to push and grind and hustle. But learning why I was feeling so fatigued and so exhausted all the time, and learning that like this MS thing wasn't going to go away, really caused me to look at how I define myself and decide I still like those things about myself. I still want to be independent and strong and able to grind and hustle. However, it needs to look differently so that I can care for myself and continue to have a long life and be healthy and be able to give back. And so I shifted the business model because I had to learn really how to coach myself through that emotional trauma and pain, and to decide that I wanted to have a better life and not to succumb to this illness and the depression that I was experiencing. And I'm like, I want to still be an entrepreneur. So let's combine these things. Let's take this story, take this pain, and turn it into my purpose to not only help others, but to really remind myself that you can be pretty amazing, have a great life despite the challenges that you're facing. So it came from that goal and that drive to be an entrepreneur, the shifting the focus to resonate with my current life situation and still wanting to help women to be empowered and move forward.
I love it. I love it. So I don't know how much you know about me, but I actually am a domestic violence survivor, and I've been in a toxic relationship or two too.
I hear you. I hear you.
And it is difficult, especially I think the biggest thing for me was the loss of a sense of self.
Absolutely.
Because for so many years, I was trying so hard to be all the things I thought he wanted me to be so that then he would love me. And I was like, if I can just become this is what he says he wants. So if I can do this, then he'll love me, and then he'll be nice to me, and then he won't call me names anymore, all the things. And it never existed. But then one day I woke up and I realized that I didn't even know who I was anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, now I don't know who I am, and he still doesn't love me. He still doesn't at least treat me like he loves me.
Exactly.
So it's morphing from that and refinding yourself. So is that one of the things, like, I feel like from your bio, like that's one of the things you really help people is to find themselves again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So similar to you, dealing with toxic relationship with the narcissist, there was tons of gaslighting. And so I didn't know if I was coming or going half the time and trying to meet that ever-changing standard of how to make him love me, make him be honest with me, make him not cheat, make him not be verbally abusive. It's just impossible because these people are not wanting to love you and see you as whole. They want to manipulate and control the situation. And so had to find myself, had to remember who I was, had to decide that this is not something that I need to settle for. There is something better out there. And talking with women, talking with my girlfriends, seeing the stories on social media, in the media, it's real. It's a pervasive issue. It's a secret that we all know is not a secret, but people don't talk about. And so I want to be a light in that to say, listen, there is a way out and let me help you through that because you are worth so much more and you can build a pretty life after this.
I love it. What do you think that were some of the biggest challenges you had when healing from that toxic relationship?
I believe the biggest challenge was really reminding myself of who Zenovia Wright is. Like we started off as this self-assured, self-confident, I can do anything woman to feeling broken and fragile and vulnerable and unsafe. And not only did I need to affirm myself and get rid of the negative self-talk, I had enough of that externally from that partner. And so then I had to tell myself who I was, but also to seek support. And so while there are tools and things that I use on my own to help me, and that's what I share with my clients, and my framework, I also heavily believe in therapy, right? Because I was going through a major depression and there were some things I needed to help and to remind myself of who I was, some tools that were beyond what I could do for myself. And it's all about getting support that you need. There are many ways to do it, but generally when you are so broken and so hurt, you need that helping hand, someone to reach out and remind you of who you are, remind you of why it's important to do the work and that it is possible because I couldn't see it for myself. I needed someone to help me along that journey.
Yeah. I think it's so much easier when you have someone to see you from the outside and tell you the truth because you get to a point where you don't trust yourself anymore, right? Because of the gaslighting, you don't it's like you don't know if you're in the matrix or not. Kind of
Exactly.
thing. Like, is
Exactly.
this real? Did this really
It's just,
happen? And you're always second guessing yourself and you're always like on edge.
yeah,
And so it's like you have to have that other person there to be like, no, this did really happen. You know, this is
exactly.
who you are to help you get to trust yourself that you know the truth. Like I always tell my kids all the time, like, you know the truth. You have it in you. You know the truth. You can figure this out
You
now.
trust yourself. You can trust
Mm-hmm.
that voice inside of you that is guiding you to
Yeah.
what you know to be right. It's when it's because it's been bottled down and shut down so often, but it is there and you can absolutely trust that voice.
Yeah. And some people might say this or say that or this other thing, but you know the truth. You know your experiences, and no one can, they can tell you're wrong, but you know the way it felt to you.
Exactly.
Okay. So were you already out of the toxic relationship and then you were diagnosed with MS, or was it in the middle? Tell me about that journey. Because I feel like it's just like you're already dealing with all this and it's, hey,
Right.
here's a little sprinkle. Little
So there
sprinkle for
was
you.
a lot of heavy sprinkle. Tsunami
There's a
even.
lot of sprinkle, but you know what I mean? It's like you're already like, it's like,
Yeah. So there was some overlap. There were times in that relationship. It was about a 3.5 year relationship of back and forth and in and out, which is common for
Mhm.
folks in our situation, in that situation. And during a breakup was when I found out that I had MS. And so during one of our reconciliations, I shared that information with him. And we proceeded the relationship for about a year or so before things got really bad. We ended up, so he wasn't physically abusive until the very end. And that was my point of saying, okay, whoa, we are not doing this. This is time for me to move on and heal and really be done. But yeah, so it was a little bit of both. So there was the back and forth with him, the gaslighting, the domestic violence, but there was a period of when I was diagnosed while we were not actually together, but I still was dealing with the acceptance of the diagnosis, living the new norm, figuring out my new routine and balancing my fatigue and energy, medication regimens, while then reconnecting with him and dealing with the same cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever read the book, The Body Keeps Score?
I have not read it, but I've heard of it. So you think it's something I need to add to my list?
So I'm obsessed with books, and I think
Okay.
as someone who was in the middle of a traumatic situation and then had a major medical diagnosis, I think 100% you need to read it.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Because our body responds, right, to these things that are happening. And like for me, like actually right at this exact moment in time, they don't know what's wrong with me. I think it might just be a magnesium deficiency. It's what I'm hoping for.
I hear you.
But there was a couple scary incidences the last couple weeks where it did not feel like a magnesium deficiency. But it's like your body, because you said, hey, we were in this and then we were apart, and then that's when I was diagnosed. It's like your body was able to calm down
a little bit.
And then it was like, oh, now I have this diagnosis. So one of my business coach, she was like, maybe it's because you finally decided to take some time off and take care of your body. That your body's like, this is what we've been dealing with.
That is real. It's very possible, because I feel like the body does adjust to what you're doing and tries to fight for you and keep going. At some point, and you get that quiet moment, you're like, oh crap, another thing. But what you don't realize is you've been dealing with this the whole time. You just weren't slowed down enough to pay attention or to listen to those signs. So shout out to you. I'm hoping it's just that deficiency. We can take some supplements for that, but shout out to you for figuring it out, getting the answers, and taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
It's something
well,
that
you have to, right? Nobody's going to take care of you. Okay, so what led you to becoming a transition coach?
Absolutely. So it goes back to that entrepreneurship drive. I wanted to figure out ways to help other women. I knew that my story was not necessarily entirely unique. Maybe you're not dealing with the big trio of MS and the toxic relationship and then having to walk away from the job and dealing with that financial upset. But even individually, those are major life shifts that can cause a person to reach that decision point where either I'm going to move forward or I'm going to get stuck. And so taking that drive for being an entrepreneur, being self-employed, and having MS really made it important for me to have control over my time, how I manage my health. And sometimes, depending on the employer, you don't get that flexibility. And so for me personally, it's important for me to be able to manage my own time and schedule, but also helping women to realize that, yes, life is going to be tough. Things are going to happen. You get to choose if you get stuck or you move forward. And so for me, it's being able to give back and help while still reaching my personal goals. It really is just merging purpose and passion.
Okay. So as a financial coach, I love talking about the finance stuff. What kind of role did that financial instability play in your healing journey?
I honestly think of the three, the financial part was the hardest part. And so just want to be fully transparent. I don't consider myself a financial coach. I connect women with the resources that they might need if that is something that they're going through. But for me, I had this dream job. And once I was diagnosed and needed some accommodations, all of a sudden the allegations about my performance come out. And yeah, it was a lot of fun at the same time. And none of it was true. They hadn't told me that there were issues with my performance before. And I'm doing the best I can to manage my schedule. I'm working late, but then it was issues with, oh, you can't be in the building late because of insurance. I'm like, but there are other people here working. So it was just a lot. But I chose to walk away because of my health. And I didn't have a plan B at the time. I'm like, we will figure it out. Generally don't recommend that for people, but that was what worked for me in that season. And so I tried to force my way into entrepreneurship different than coaching. And it was a lot on my body, but mentally I felt so much peace because I wasn't having to answer to a job that didn't really support and value me as an individual. But having financial challenges, admittedly, I decided to go through bankruptcy to help me to rebuild and not have to be super stressed about all the calls and the collections. But having, again, this identity as a very independent person, a person who enjoys nicer things, not having the finances to even do the basics. Like there was a time I thought I was going to lose my home. It was, again, emotionally and mentally crushing, and something that I had to learn that, yes, we need money to survive. That is the way that our world works. However, that doesn't have to define me. And frankly, there are other ways to earn an income that don't have to be tied to your job. You will figure it out. this has got to be temporary. And that's what I would tell myself. This is a season. You made a choice. That was a good choice for you in that moment. So what's next? And it's helping women get to what's next is where I want to step in and help them to lay out those steps, because you don't have to get stuck.
Yeah, I love it. And I think I want to say kudos to you for going through bankruptcy.
Thank you.
Because so there was a time, and I am a financial coach, but that doesn't mean that there isn't some bad stuff back there. I always say that I can help people to not make the mistakes that I did. I'll help you not make those mistakes because I already made them all way back when I used a lot of my credit, because my ex and I had a business together, and I used a lot of my credit to make that business happen.
Oh.
And then when we were going through our divorce, somehow a lot of it got to stay with me. And I was also in insurance at the time, and if you go through bankruptcy, it can mess up licensures and things like that. So I was like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And literally to this day, like like some of that stuff like is still haunting me. It'll be my birthday present that one of them, the big one, is gonna go away finally. But literally, had I just been able to just go through bankruptcy, I would honestly, that would have been a better idea.
Yeah, it was a struggle for me. It was a very tough decision. And again, having help, having someone from the outside, it was my therapist who was like, consider this as an option. It does not mean you failed. It is a way to the next step without some of the stress and struggle. And similar to you, girl, I co-signed a car for this person.
Yeah,
So
you
that
know,
was a decision.
things, right? And yeah, and it's just, and so sometimes I kick myself, but it's like you can't go backwards, you can only go forwards. And it'll be my birthday present that it just goes away, and then woo, yay, extra points. I credit. But I think a lot of people have like that, you know what you said, like it doesn't mean you're a failure, right? It's just a decision. It's just a monetary decision at the time. Like for some people it's not the best decision, so you need to look at both sides, right? But obviously for you it was, and that doesn't, to me, that means you're strong, that you took the best decision available. Even I think like even Dave Ramsey, who is not my favorite but is very famous.
I'm familiar with Dave Ramsey. I know there's some controversy there.
And he has declared bankruptcy, so it's just because of where you were, then you get to where you are now. And I think that journey and knowing all the things that worked and didn't is the most useful for other people. So
Exactly.
yeah. Okay. So tell me more about PrettyLife Coaching, because it sounds just awesome. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you. And I feel like I'm preaching to the crowd because you also use pretty in your business. And I love that so much. So building your pretty life, and what I call my clients is pretties. And I want to be very clear. It is not about being soft or cutesy. Your pretty life is the life that you want. So when you see yourself at point A, dealing with whatever transition, hurting, broken, but you can still hope and dream and have a vision for what's next. That is your pretty life. It doesn't have to be on a yacht, doesn't have to be traveling the world, doesn't have to be rich and famous. It could be peace in your patio in your backyard. The point is, it's your pretty life. And so my coaching and my framework is to help you with strategies to get from point A to point B, help you with resources if there are things that I cannot do that are beyond my expertise, right? But we still want to get you a go. I have a referral network, so we can build that with you. But it's really about rebuilding your mindset, getting you to a place of healing and wholeness, figuring out what your specific transition is and what you need, to getting you to the outcome, which is your desired pretty life. And that is what PrettyLife Coaching is about.
I love it because I think everyone's pretty life is different, right? And that's why I started Pretty Smart Business, because I wanted to show women that you can be pretty and smart. You can be a mom and a business owner. You can be all the things. And I feel like so much society is trying to make us choose.
Don't have to.
You can only be these things, or you can only be that. And it's like, no, I can be all the things. Thank you very much. I can go, because I do beauty pageants, so nice. I can go strap my stuff on a stage, and then the next day go cook dinner for my kids. It's totally allowed. I can be both, and you can too. And you can have a really awesome business also.
Absolutely.
So I love that you're embracing that kind of that same mentality where it's like, whatever you envision for you, that's what we want to build. Yeah. That's so awesome. So what are some of the common like emotional roadblocks that you find people have?
It is the mindset, and that self-talk is one of the most common. Having a difficult time when we're hurting, seeing that we can actually be happy again or whole, dealing with the lies. So like I usually start my clients, and that's what we'll talk about it later, the affirmation journey that I'm talking about right now with my clients or prospects, is building your mindset with affirmations and having a routine where you build up that self-talk to change the mindset, because that's really step one, I believe, in being able to work towards what's next, building that belief in yourself. And it's a process. It may hurt at first because you're basically almost professionally and intentionally lying to yourself. Like it's the truth that you're an amazing person, but you don't believe that. It feels like a lie, and it might chafe a little bit at first. But getting people past that is one of the first things that we work on. And it's one of the most common roadblocks I see, is that self-talk and that self-belief.
I got you. Yeah, I can totally see that because it's, as you said, it's not a lie, but it feels like it, right? And so it's like, how do you work with that?
Yeah.
So, what is one message you would love for every woman to take away from this podcast?
Absolutely. One message: wherever you are in life, you are worth the life that you want, and it is possible. And it is not weakness to get help. That was a few different things, but the life you want is available. You are worth it. And support is strength. Getting help is a strength, not a
Yeah.
weakness.
Yeah, I think totally getting help is a strength, right? Because I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for great mentors. And so I'm so blessed that I get to be that for other people now. But it's looking back at all the different things. No, none of us, I always say self-made, and I always say there's no such thing as self-made.
Everyone had some kind of help along the way.
It's more, yeah, it's more like community made in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then when in just starting, getting the starting, I think is the most important thing. So
exactly.
you have a awesome affirmation journey you're taking people with. And I think that's a great example of where to just start. So tell us about that.
It's literally a start. I think everyone, man, woman, child, going through a challenging time or not, needs to speak positively to themselves, not of yourself, but to yourself. Because our mind works in a way that when we hear something, so you're saying these out loud, it resonates with us in a way that we can then become the thing that we've spoken. It's really honestly not magic. It may sound ethereal if you've not done it before, but we are marketed to, we hear messages about ourselves subconsciously, intentionally, all day, every day. And so your voice needs to be loudest. And so what I take my clients on or prospects on this journey, completely free to join, is 14 days of getting in the practice of using affirmations. I give you some prompts to start if you're completely new to the practice. I encourage you to design your own throughout the journey so that you can tailor them to you, because this is your personal journey, and as well as a space for journaling so that you are able to reflect on where you are in this process. Think about how you're feeling. You can make note of the ones that resonate the most with you, or what you need to work on, what you need to hear more from for yourself. But it is a starting point to that work that is going to help you get into the next phase of your goals.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Where can we find this?
It is on my website at clarity.zenoviawright.com. It takes you through a little bit more information about me and my story, as well as your link to sign up and get your free PDF to join our challenge.
I love it. Okay. And then are there other places that our listeners can find you?
Absolutely. So my main website is zenoviawright.com. So please feel free to go there, check out that site to learn more about me, to schedule a one-on-one call with me, which is of course free for our 20-minute get to know each other session. And if you want daily inspiration and to follow me on social, please do so on Instagram at Zenovia Wright is my Instagram handle.
I love it. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've been a gem, and I can't wait to get to know you better. And I want to do your affirmation thing. I'm like, yeah, let's
Awesome.
let's
Love
affirm some
it.
good affirmations. So thank you so much for being with us, Zenovia, and thank you all listeners for listening to the Pretty Smart Business Podcast. And we'll catch you later.
Thank you.